On our facility here, we have 149 wind turbines. These turbines go to Puget Sound Energy electric customers, so about 1 million people who we serve. But this facility produces enough for about 70,000 homes. So today, it's not very windy, so our turbines aren't producing electricity at the moment, but it takes at least 4.5 meters per second wind to start producing electricity. Now I'm going to just turn the camera around and kind of show you what's out of my windows here. So we're in the visitor center at the wind facility, and you can see we're a couple hundred yards, a couple hundred meters away from these turbines out here. And to give you an idea, from the ground up to the top of the blade is a little over 105 meters. Now, it might be kind of hard to see with the sun, but at the top of the turbine, you guys see the box? Yes?
Yes.
Yeah.
You can kind of see that box up there? Well, it's about over 10 meters long, and it's very large, about 75 tons. And inside of that box, we have something that looks a little more like this. So out here are the blades, the box here, this is called the nacelle. And then we have a large gearbox, kind of like in a car, and then a generator that's producing the electricity. And all of this electricity is coming down the top of the tower, about 67 meters. And all the electricity flows through. So on the inside, there's another cable, and this is just to support all the weight. Now when the electricity gets down to the ground, it goes into underground lines, so everything's buried, and each cable gets one of these. So once these are put up, everything goes about 100 miles from here and serves about 13,000 people in our county for electricity. And when they build them, they bring them in on trucks, into pieces, and then they assemble the pieces on the facility. You guys can see this is a bolt, right? So there's a lot of these bolts that go into the making of these turbines. But we also use some larger bolts on the facility. And these bolts here are the bolts that connect the towers together. So the tower is rolled steel, and it looks solid from the outside, but it comes in 3 different pieces, and we use about 200 of these to connect the tower together. This one weighs about 11 pounds. It's quite heavy. And then once the roads and foundations are put in on the facility, it only takes about 1 day to put up one turbine. So it goes up very quickly. And wind technology has improved in the last 20 years, and wind is really cheap to build. So it's one of the cheapest options for our customers. That's why we've gone towards the wind industry. Not only is it very clean, you're not burning fossil fuels or coal, it is very cheap as well. Do you know what kind of energy production your country uses mostly? Is it coal, natural gas, water?
Coal and natural gases.
Yeah, and we have a small nuclear power plant that is shared with Slovenia, our neighbor.
Okay.
Yes.
But mainly
fossil fuels.
Yeah.
Okay. In Washington, a lot of our power comes from the Columbia River. So that's a major source. That's the majority of our power production is hydro facilities. And 10% of our total production as a company comes from wind now. We do use a little bit of natural gas and a little coal, but the most part is hydro because it's a lot cheaper.
And it's environmental friendly.
Yes.
Okay.
Now do use a lot of, well, not a lot, but a lot more natural gas because they are a lot more efficient and they don't pollute as much as coal does. It's also fairly cheap, but really a lot of hydro here. So this is the generator that's in each turbine. It weighs about 10 tons, so it's very heavy. And over here is the shaft that's connected to the rotor. And it's not very hard to move. You can move it with your foot or your hand. And once I get this going, I'll show you the magnet inside the generator. So we're going to look through these holes. And then that rotating thing, those are the magnets inside. And then we have our copper coils over here. And once that gets up to speed, it will be producing 690 volts. And at speeds of about 31-mile-an-hour winds, each turbine, each generator is producing enough for about 1,300 homes. And then we're going to come over to this. This is the blade. It is hollow. It's made out of fiberglass. And we use 90 bolts to attach it to the hub on the turbine. So this weighs about 7 tons. It's very heavy. And all 3 blades come in a set. So they have to be within about 12 pounds of each other. And then the set goes on the turbine. And I'm just going to walk down the blade a bit. And when we get to the tip of the blade, I'm going to show you how flexible it is. It flexes because fiberglass is fairly flexible. And during high winds, this blade will flex back up to about 4 feet. So this is the tip of the blade. We have a little snow on it, but it doesn't take a lot to get that blade bouncing. So it's very flexible. And then at the tip, you can see this. It looks like a small coin. This is a lightning receptor. So this will ground out lightning strikes if it gets struck. Do you guys have any questions for me?
How much does a wind turbine cost approximately?
That depends when you buy it and how big of a turbine you buy. But our turbines here cost anywhere from $3 million to $4.5 million a piece.
Pocket change.
Yeah, so it is fairly expensive, but these turbines will pay for themselves in about 13 years. Their lifespan is anywhere from about 20 to 30 years. So there's about 13 years of pure profit after that, 13 to 20 some years. And that lifespan depends on your winds. If you have really turbulent winds, your turbine will wear out quicker. But even after the lifespan of the 20, 30 years, the tower and the blades are fine. It's really the inside components that need to be replaced.
So we just replace them or?
Yeah, so like the generator after that time would be replaced. The gearbox would be replaced.
Do you think that wind energy will be, let's say, a primary resource of energy in the future?
I think it'll keep expanding, mainly because it's a cheap. I think in the U.S. we're expanding because it is low emissions. You're not burning any fuels. But what like anything, the more we develop the wind, the cheaper it's going to be for us. So I think it's going to be a big part. I think solar will too, but right now it's too expensive and it's not very efficient. So I think solar and wind are going to be a big part of the future for energy. But we'll have to see, I think. It kind of depends on fuel prices and stuff like that as well.
And you have 149 turbines.
Yep.
Why not 150?
So what we did, we originally wanted more than that, but we did surveys, and what we found was a bunch of cultural artifacts nearby, Native Americans. So there were some cultural sites that we had to cancel turbines just because we couldn't place them there. Each turbine, we call it micro-sited. Each turbine is at that location for a specific reason. So there's only so many areas you can actually have the turbines. And during construction, some of them got canceled or even moved away. And that's how we got that weird number.
And are you still going to expand the facility, or it's going to stay like this?
This one will stay like this, but we own two other wind facilities in this state. We own one with 87 turbines, another weird number, and another facility with 149 as well. That newest facility will be expanded, and we can add up to about 800 more turbines.
That's a lot.
Whether we do that many or not really depends on more research. Do our customers need this right now? As well as cost and environmental studies still. But in these other facilities that we have, we lease the land from farmers. So it's softer soil, it's easier to get to, and you don't have to do as many surveys or as much research because the land has already been developed. So it's a lot different than where we are here. A lot of this is undeveloped land. You have to minimize impact as much as possible.
What about the noise that the turbines make? Is it loud, or what's the deal?
It's not very loud. It's about 45 decibels at 350 meters. So it sounds similar to a dishwasher. It's about the same noise level. A refrigerator is a little bit quieter. And now, as the winds pick up, there's more noise coming off of the blades, because the blades are what creates the noise. It's the blade cutting through the air. Now, our turbines here at the tip, it's moving about 155 miles an hour, so it's moving rather quickly. And that's the sound. But as the wind picks up, so the wind speed picks up, it gets harder to hear the turbines over the sound of the wind.
So it's the wind that makes the sound, not the actual turbine. The blades cutting.
There is noise from the turbine in the nacelle, but you can't hear it from the ground. It's kept in the nacelle. The blades cutting through the air will make sound, but on the higher wind speeds, you really can't hear the turbines at all.
And there are certainly many advantages about using that, but what about the disadvantages? Are there any?
I would say the main disadvantage is the wind doesn't blow all the time. It starts and stops, it blows harder and then slows down. But how we deal with that is we get forecasts for the week in advance, and we know how much wind we're going to have. And we call it a load office, the main control center for all of our power facilities. And they can balance the load. So if we know the wind's going to drop, they need to turn on another hydro to meet the demand. So they manage all of our facilities. I would say that's the one disadvantage. There are a lot of other advantages to wind other than the no pollution. Part of it is you can put these almost anywhere with wind. They don't take up a lot of space, like a coal plant would or even a natural gas. It just takes, about 10 feet around the turbine and one road to get there, and then people can live by them or even farm around them.
So, would it be possible to actually build turbines close to the city?
Yeah, so in Denmark, the legislation or the rule is 300 or 350 meters away from buildings. A lot of the regulations have to do with sound, so the sound level has to be below a certain decibel range before you can build near homes or cities. Here we don't have anything up here. It's the middle of nowhere. We don't have buildings. We don't have really any problems with sound or people complaining. But I think you'll start to see them closer to cities. And some of the newer technologies with the wind turbines are with the blades. And the turbines have two different sound modes. So if you can be a lot louder during the daytime, it'll optimize production, produce more, create more noise. And then at night, it'll change the angle of the blades to produce less, but still produce throughout the night, and it won't bug people as much.
And can they be built in the water, like in the sea or ocean?
Yes, so in the U.S., there's not a lot of wind turbines. There is some off the coast on the east side, so by New York and Austin. But a lot of the offshore wind farms are around Denmark. The U.S. has a lot of land, and it's easier to build turbines on land than in the water. But in Europe, where there's not a lot of space, out in the ocean is one of the best spots because you have a lot of space, and you build them far enough out that they don't really distort the horizon at all. You can see them a little bit, just like little hairs off the ocean, but they're far enough out that it doesn't block views or anything.
So, do you have any turbines or on the shore?
We don't. There may be some in the future, but right now there's a lot of good wind spots on land, and it's just a lot cheaper and easier to build a turbine on the land.
So, let's, would it be possible to actually have, let's say, a mini-sized turbine for like domestical use in the future?
Like blowing.
You can, and in this, around Ellensburg, you'll see farms and homes with smaller turbines. The problem with these small ones is they're expensive to fix if something goes wrong. There's a lot of moving components. So in residential areas, you're really looking at more of a solar application when you're looking with cost. Even though it's more expensive, you don't have those mechanical failures. You set up your solar array and you don't have to touch it.
Yeah.
But it is possible. You need about an 11-mile-an-hour wind for a turbine to pay for itself.
Yeah. And how much does this small one cost?
It depends on the size. You can get really small ones from $300 or $400 to thousands of dollars.
Could we make an experiment and build a turbine here next to the school? And what purposes could it serve for?
You could probably do a number of things. If you wanted, you could build a small turbine and have it store it in the batteries, in the battery backups, and you could power probably smaller things with a small battery backup if you wanted. You could even have build a really small one that can charge phones and devices like that. And you can do that with solar as well. Or you could actually tie it into the school's wiring system, like our net metering, and it would just be producing, going in through the wires and powering a portion, a small portion of the school.